Hello, my name is James Ashwood, and today I want to be discussing the elderly in the workplace. Now, did you know that almost 30% of senior citizens are struggling to pay their expenses? This is actually from an interview or an article posted by CBS News titled More Americans Are Struggling to Pay the Bills. Here's Who's Suffering the Most, published June 9th, 2023. Now, the main idea that I want to be discussing today is, well, the elderly. They can be seen negatively by both employers and fellow employees. However, these individuals can actually offer a lot of needed insight to a workforce in a whole. And some of the main points I want to be discussing today are going to be who the elderly are to begin. Second will be stereotypes. This will be both positive and negative stereotypes. And lastly, it will be about communication in the workplace and just some general tips on how to actually communicate with elderly and how to set your workforce ahead of others. Now, what does it mean to be an elderly person? Now, an elderly person is classified as someone 65 years or older in age, and the Pew Research Center analysis shows that actually about 19% of adults aged 65 or older are still employed. This was taken from an article written by Richard Fry and Dana Braga titled Older Workers Are Growing in Number and Earning Higher Wages, and it was published December 14th, 2023. Now, elderly citizens can fall victim to age discrimination. That is one of the highest that they do fall under. Now, age discrimination, I do want to point out, is targeted at people 40 years or older in age. Now, the elderly do work for many different reasons. This can be because they actually still need to work. So I want to begin actually by saying we all work for riches, whether it's financial or personal enrichment. So some elder workers just can't retire and are forced to still work. I know that's one of the main points that I brought up at the beginning of the video. However, some elderly people just enjoy working or just want something to do. I've seen this many times in my previous places of employment, and it does happen a lot more than you might think. Now, a recent Federal Reserve survey did find that about 45% of employed older adults do consider themselves to still be retired. Retired workers much more likely to work part-time than their non-retired counterparts, and about 25% of older workers are receiving income from retirement, pension plans, or annuities as well. This was actually from an article posted by the U.S. Department of Labor titled, What Do I Need to Know About Age Discrimination? And I got this information on March 4th, 2024. So what are some of the stereotypes? Now, I'm going to get into the positive first and then to the negative. So starting with the positive, some positive stereotypes are they're more reliable, they have a higher work ethic, and more work experience. Now, sometimes this could be true, and sometimes this could be negative. However, these are stereotypes, and this does vary from person to person, no matter what their age is. Now, with that being said, I want to also dive into the negative stereotypes, some being that they're less adaptable, their physical capabilities are lacking, their technological capabilities are lacking, they're less trainable, and they're more resistant to change. Again, this is from person to person. There's no really tacking a negative trait on a whole group of people. Instead, you can find out what someone's strengths and weaknesses are for that individual. So do be careful of that, because you will it's easy to fall victim to putting stereotypes and labels on people instead of finding out who the person in front of you is. Now, what does it mean for us as we're about to enter our workforce and start our careers? So communication in the workplace. This is a big one. So my again, the first kind of tip I have while you're about to enter the workforce is to avoid stereotypes. And this is for any group of people, whether it's elderly, whether it's physically disabled, whether it's for anything really. Avoid stereotypes. Uh, Focus on that interpersonal communication. They are humans, just like you, just like me. You may have to speak to someone a little bit differently than you may speak to one of your friends, but that's on you to figure out how to actually communicate with that person, or what your preferred way to communicate with them is, just like you would with anybody else, as we're making and establishing our relationships from person to person. And this is the same about teamwork and workplace customs and traditions. Some people don't like work parties, or they don't like to go out after work. They don't like to joke around when they're even at work. Some people are straight business. Some people do like to have a little more fun. Again, it's person to person. Get to know that person. Get to know whoever you're working with. If you are working with an elderly person, just learn who they are. Learn the best way to communicate with them, and I'm sure that you will thrive as well in that workplace. So how can we apply this into our future work environments? So as a recap, we discussed kind of who the elderly were. We discussed some of the stereotypes about the elderly and how to more effectively communicate with elderly. The one thing I want to point out is that elderly people are just humans. Now, capabilities from person to person, no matter what their age, are always varied. It's up to each of us to figure out what each and everybody's capabilities actually are, and to be able to expound on that relationship and to effectively work with that person. So let's all be better, let's all do our part, and let's be the best employees we can be. Again, my name is James Ashwood. Thank you for listening to my presentation today about diversity with elderly, and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.